Today we're covering dynamic documents and data merge. And your hosts today are Brandon, Ibach, and I'll be sort of filling in along the way. Brandon's our key developer, and he is a genius at all things Arbortext. So let's talk a little bit about what data merge is and get like the basics of it. Data merge is the ability to insert live data from a remote source on demand. This can be an Excel document, a database, some other server that has database or ODBC access. I'll come back to that in a minute. Anything you can reach out to and otherwise get data from through this mechanism, you can then take that data and automatically insert it into your document. Why would you do this? Well, the typical way to get data out of some other repository is to run a report and then copy and paste that information into where you want to put it. That means anytime that data changes, you've got to re-export, copy, and paste. This is extremely tedious, error-prone, and you've got to remember to do it just in case something happened along the way and you didn't get it updated in time. So it certainly keeps all of your content live, up-to-date, accurate, all the kind of things we want from dynamic publishing anyway. And that's where you would use data merge. So there's two sides to the data merge process, getting it set up and making sure that it runs. There's an administrative side and then the user side. On the administrative side, you're going to do a couple of things like defining the queries, what you want to get out of the database and the results that you get back. You also want to configure your databases and the access so that you can actually do this activity. On the user side, you want to be able to insert those queries into your documents, and you want to be able to publish documents that have these queries embedded in it, so the live data is what goes out and not some form filled in template space that says put your data here. So this is sort of the basics behind data merge, and we're good, so we don't have any questions yet, so let's continue. Then this is sort of a picture about how it works. Really, your data is in the database. It's kind of there in the center. It can be in one database. It can be in many databases. It can be in your translation memory. It can be anywhere kind of thing that it's in. And you can pull that information on demand into your editing and authoring environment, or you can pull it on demand at publishing time. A lot of times we get questions that say, you know, does it matter if does my CMS have to support data merge? And really this all kind of happens independent of your content management system. Although, you know, there are ways where you'd maybe want to have it happen on its own. But it's really between the database and the editing environment and the database and the publishing tool. And those things are happening sort of outside of the content management system itself, although the activity to publish may be triggered by a database, by a workflow or content management event. But it's not actively involved in the process. All right. Next, looking at the administrative side. These are the basic steps to get data merge set up in your Arbortext environment. First, you got to make sure you set up the database. It's got the data that you want. It's got a user that's restricted, probably. You don't want to use your database administrator because this stuff is being sent over the air in the clear. So you maybe want a very restricted user who only has access to see very specific things and can't really create any havoc in there if somebody gets a SQL injection crazy query that they're trying to break in. So you really want to make sure the database is set up securely and effectively, and it's got all the data you want, and you know what queries you want to get out of it. You're going to be wanting to set up the query. You may want to set up SQL embedded queries so that they're easy to trigger and they're pre-populated. Talk to a DBA about this kind of thing, ways to make your database access more effective and more efficient. So once you've got that part side set up, you need to set up access to it through ODBC. ODBC is Open Database Connectivity. It's a fairly open standard. It's supported by pretty much most databases you'd want to get anything from. Excel, Access, SQL Server, Oracle, all of these things who support ODBC. And there can be some, will not, you know, kid you, there can be some tweaking and very specific configuration issues and technical things about getting that set up correctly and making sure that that all works. But you know, you work with IT and your database DBAs to make sure that that works correctly. You've got all the permissions in the user and all the connectivity set up correctly. So once you've got the database set up and the access set up, you're going to configure your Arbortext DMF file. It's the data merge file. And in there, there's three kind of components. 2 are required. 1 is more or less not really optional, but it's sort of an enhanced way of doing things. And the first one is to specify your data merge configuration. Now this is on the Arbortext side, giving the credentials for the database access. Second, you want to define what that query is that you're sending to the database. It defaults back to presentation. It'll insert a table, right? Because if typical database access, you get a table or row, one table with a table with 1 row, right, of results. If you want it to look different, you don't want it to be a table, then you're going to need to define how to insert those results into your document. You're going to usurp that table sort of behavior. And so if you do that, if you want that third option and you don't want it to come in as a table, you want it to come in as a list or some other structure, then you need to include an XSL style sheet that defines how editor will display that result set once it's been inserted into the document. That's pretty much it on the administrative side. Fairly straightforward tools to deal with. So on the user side, once this has all been configured and set up, there's one thing for users to set up on their side kind of at one time, and that's to set your update preferences. Do you want to do it manually? Do you want to do it when the document's opened? Or do you want to do it when it's on Compose? So that means if you've got a data merge query in your document and you want to see what it really is, right, the current live amount of data, do you want it to update that query and fetch new information and refresh your view in the editor when the document opens? Do you want to do it sort of on demand and trust that on publish time, because on publish time it's on open or on publish time, or do you want it to just do it whenever you compose? And you can just set that at the setting and preferences. So the second thing that you got to do on your side is you're going to insert your query wherever it is allowed to be inserted. Remember that the default behavior is to insert as a table. So anywhere in your document that you can insert a table is where you can insert a query result. If you are presenting it as a list, it has to go wherever a list is acceptable to be put. And there's basically 4 steps to it. You launch your insert markup window, set your mode to query, choose the query you want, and set any optional or required parameters, and click submit. There you go. See your data in the document. Seems pretty easy and straightforward. So let's see it. And I'm going to hand the controls over to Brandon. Brandon, are you ready? Hello?
Sorry, I was muted there.
There we go.
Okay, give me just a second here to get my screen set up here.
And we seem to be cooking right on time.
Okay, everybody see this beautiful little background we've got here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what I'm going to do to make this as simple as possible, I'm just going to actually walk through one of the samples that's included with Editor. And so you can actually go through these steps yourself to try this out. There's a ready-made database. In this case, it's actually an Excel file that's being used as a database source, and you can kind of play around with it and see how it works, and then try and apply those same techniques to your own data. So I've got a window here. This is just my editor installation directory under program files. There's a samples folder here, which has samples for a variety of the technologies included with Arbortext Editor. I'm going to go underneath the data merge folder. There's 2 examples here, one involving an Access database and one using Excel. We'll go ahead and open that up. There's a README file here. And I'll just bring that up so you can get, see, it's not too long here, just about a page or so of information. This has all the details about how to set everything up. So pretty much everything that we're going to walk through right now. And then the actual zip file here has the all of the databases and the support files that we need. So the best way to do any kind of customization work with Arbortext, where you're setting up queries or any other type of document types or anything like that, is using what we call a custom folder. And you can locate the custom folder anywhere you want to, so you don't have to mess around at all with the installation files that editor installs onto the machine. You don't have to worry about any permissions issues with the newer versions of Windows that don't want you to mess around with anything inside of program files. So I'm going to go ahead and select these files and set up a custom folder called Custom already in a separate area. So this is a brand new folder. It's empty right now. And I'll just go ahead and drag these files out of the zip file and copy them into my custom folder. Now, I need to go ahead and let editor know where to find these files. So I'm going to go ahead and click up here and copy this path. And then I'm going to go ahead and set up an environment variable. And hopefully you're familiar with how to go in and set this up. It's got a little bit different depending on which version of Windows you're on. They kind of move around the process to find this dialog. But basically once you get in here, I'm just going to set up a user variable. So I don't need to be an administrator or anything. And the name of that variable is apt custom. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste that path in there. And click OK. And OK again. Okay. Now before we go ahead and launch editor, we'll take a quick look at the DMF or data merge file. I'll go ahead and open that up. It's actually, go back up to the custom folder here. It's actually in the data merge folder here. In this case, it's called excel.dmf. And go ahead and open that up in the editor here. Scroll up to the top. This is a little daunting looking. For some reason, the folks who make up the sample files come with Arbortext don't believe in indenting to show the hierarchy. So it's a little bit difficult to read through here, but basically there's three main sections. There's actually two queries defined in here, and I'll describe the difference between those in just a moment. Up at the top here, we've got what they call the interface section. This is actually going to describe the parameters that the user will be prompted for when they execute the query. So in this case, we're going to be asking the user for a company, and there are two choices here that they can pick from, and a platform. And again, Windows and Unix are the two choices that are provided there. Second section is our source, and that's basically going to be our database information. The most important part is the query, which starts right here. And this, if you're familiar with SQL, structured query language at all, this is a pretty simple SQL query. I'm going to select the processor, operating system, memory, disk, and disk space columns from a table, which in this case is called sheet 1. Basically, when you're using Excel as a data source, each sheet within the workbook is treated as a separate table, so you can actually use it as a relational database and join multiple table data together. In this case, we're just going to select from a single table. And then we'll then have our two parameters in our where clause, which defines the criteria. Company is going to be equal to our first variable, represented by the question mark, and platform is going to be set equal to our second variable. And then our this section down here is where we actually tie the variables that we prompted the user for up here, P01 being company and P02 being platform. And we're going to actually specify that those are the two parameters that we want to plug into this query when it runs. So the processor will automatically drop those values into the query and execute it. The next section, the other part of our data source, is actually a pointer to our database. As Liz mentioned, we're going to be using ODBC. Technically, we're using also JDBC, which is Java Database Connectivity, which is the de facto method for accessing databases from Java components, and the old data merge technology is all based on Java. And the Java runtime that you download from Sun in order to be able to run Java programs on your computer, actually download from Oracle now, since they recently acquired that. That comes with a bridge, so you can go from JDBC over to ODBC, which is a Microsoft technology for database access. And this right here, hardware requirements, is the name of the data source that it's going to look for. So that's one of the things that we need to set up here. And to do that, we open up the ODBC data source administrator. You usually access this by going underneath Programs, Administrative Tools, and you'll see data sources listed there. The instructions in that README file actually describe using a system DSN, or data source name, but that actually requires you to have administrative privileges on the machine, so I'm actually going to avoid any issues with that, I'm going to set up a user DSN. The only difference being that I can set that up without administrative privileges, but it's only good for me as a single user. So if anyone else, any other users on this same computer wanted to use it, they'd have to set it up again themselves or get an administrator to set it up as a system DSN. Other than that, they're basically identical. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add here. And select the driver. So we're going to use the driver for Microsoft Excel. And it's going to prompt me for the information here. First thing we need to give it is a data source name. That's going to have to match the name that our DMF file is looking for. So we'll go ahead and put that in here. And the only other thing we need to specify for Excel is the actual source of our data here. And actually it's already pointing at the Garage custom directory that I set up already. And there's the Excel file that was provided with the sample. Click OK, and there's our hardware requirements data source. Now there's one other thing I'm going to go ahead and fix in our file here. So first of all, the last major section is, like I said, we have the interface for what we're going to prompt the user for, our source information, where to find the data, and the query that we're going to run against it. And then the last thing is how do we want to actually transform that data to get it ready to insert into our document. And this first query is going to generate a table using this table model transformer, which basically pretty much does things fairly automatically. All you need to do is just tell it what type of data model you're using, and there are several main different types of models that most DTDs use some variation of those. The name of the tag that is going to form the outer wrapper of our table, and a few other basic things like you can change font colors and weights for the header rows and the body rows. There's just a couple of basic things provided here, but there's a whole range of parameters you can set about this to customize how this works. And then down here they've just got some column widths preset for in order to kind of lay out our table the way we want it. Now quickly go down and look at the second query here, which is going to generate a list instead of a table. And most of it's pretty much the same. Our interface is all the same. We're going to prompt the user for the same information. The query is identical, and we're pointing at the same data source. But in this case, we're using an XSLT transformation to generate our markup. And it needs to know where to find that, and it's pointing to just a generic directory here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that path again, so it knows where to find that transform. You can see it's right inside the custom directory here, hardware.xsl. Copy that path again, and I'm going to paste it in here. Change our slashes real quick here to make sure that it's happy with that path. And then write that to disk. And now we are ready to go ahead and launch editor. just a moment to load up here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just create a new document. And we're just going to use the Arbortext version of DocBook that editor ships with. Go ahead and turn the tags on here. Give ourselves a title here. Get rid of some of these extra tags that we don't need for this purpose. And just put some quick text here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create the table version of the query first. So we'll go to the Insert menu and select Markup. This brings up a little dialog that gives me a list of tags that I can insert here. This will be the actual XML elements. Oops. Just expand this out a little bit. We're going to go ahead and change the mode here and select Query. And it'll give us a list of the options that we have for queries. And these are the two that were listed in our file here, the in a table version and in the list item. We're going to go ahead and do the table version first. Insert that. And here you can see it's this is based on the interface information that in the query file. These are the two companies we can choose from, and the two platforms, Windows or Unix. So go ahead and leave the defaults for both of these. Click next, and it gives us a little preview of the results of the query here. So it's kind of set up as a table here. You can see the 4 columns that we selected from our table. Now the options that we have down here is basically when is this query going to get updated, because not only are we inserting the results of the query here, but we're also inserting information about this query so that we can rerun it anytime we need to get updated data from the database. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these all checked, and that basically means that we can manually update it whenever we want to. There's a menu item in order to do that. And it'll also automatically update this query every time we open this document, and it'll automatically update it just before we go to compose our document to PDF or HTML or whatever output we're going to generate. Go ahead and click Insert, and there we went ahead and created the table. And now let's go ahead and insert the other type of query here as well. That's the list version. And this time we'll actually select different parameters. So we want the Unix platform data. And again, it's giving us a preview. In this case, it's actually just a block of markup because this could be any type of arbitrary markup. So it's just going to show you basically just to give you a quick idea of what that looks like. Make sure that looks approximately correct. And we'll go ahead and insert that as well. And here you can see it went ahead and created an itemized list with the one bulleted item for each column within the table. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go ahead and close Editor for a moment here, because I'm actually going to bring up the database so you can see what that content looks like. So I just actually put this Excel document up on Google Docs, which has very good import-export capabilities for all of the Office formats. And actually the data that is included in that file is just these first 3 rows, one for each platform for the first company, and a single row for the second company. And I've gone ahead and added a couple of extra rows here on that first company with the on the Unix platform, and just put in some slightly different values for each of those. I'm going to go ahead and download this file as an Excel document. I'll just grab that file and paste it in over the top of the version that I had there previously. And now we'll reopen editor. I'm going to select the file that we're just working on from the recent list. And if we scroll up here, you can actually see that that query is now expanded, and there's now a total of 12 items in the list here. So three sets of 4 column values. So because we selected the auto update on open, when it reopened this document, it selected all of that, it reran the query and reselected it, the updated data. So we can go ahead and make a PDF of this real quick, just using the default style sheets.
While that's processing, we have a question.
Okay.
I do not have mode query, both version 2 and version 5.4. Is there some setup required?
Yes, you'll need to have the DMF file in the data merge folder underneath of your custom directory, and of course that whatever data source that DMF file is looking for, you need to make sure that is set up. But those are probably the main 2 things: making sure you got a DMF file that's pointing to the right place, and making sure that your ODBC data source is set up properly.
So, and then I think also there you have to turn data merge on in the DCF file as well, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, let me go ahead and and point that out. That you notice we had the this is the actual database here. This is the XSLT transform. I'll show you that in just a second. The data merge folder here had our Excel DMF file, and sorry, I kind of glazed over that. In the underneath doc types here, because we're using AX docbook, there is this DCF file. Do that real quick here. And down at the bottom there, you need to set up this data merge tag. Again, you can look at this file as an example, and basically you just set up the data merge tag, data source inside of it, enabled yes, and then this is the actual name of that DMF file, because it was called excel.dmf. You just put Excel and you name that field there, and it'll automatically find it if it's located in that data merge folder.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Put this page down. You can see that we've got both the list version of the query and the table version that we inserted first. We quickly, we're running a little short on time, but let me quickly just show the XSLT transform. This is actually a very simple transform in this case, but a lot of times you don't need too much more than this. The ATI DM prefixes for the tag sets that the data merge functionality uses. So for our overall result set, we're going to create an itemized list with a fixed title that we've supplied here, and then apply our templates recursively from there. Pretty much just keep walking down, and then for each column inside of each row, we will create a list item with a paragraph inside of it, and then the actual contents of that column there. So if we wanted to change anything about this, change the title of our list, or possibly include the column name in each list item, so we can see what the name of that value is. Do anything different with the header values or anything like that. We can make all those adjustments here using XSLT.
Great.
And I think that's about it for Any additional questions?
Oh, so we have one clap, 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 clap. Very nice.
Thank
That's
you.
our first one. And before we go, I'm going to steal the presenter thing back for just a second so that I can bring, while everybody types in any questions they have that are left. Let's just go for a minute and show you all of the resources available to Arbortext users. This is a short list of them. This is not all of them. You can go to the URL at the bottom of the page, and there's links live and information about all of these on the web. The Arbortext user group met just last Saturday, 2 days ago, and we talked about Dita, and Brandon and Deb from Nikon Precision did a fabulous job, I hear, on that. The next Monster Garage series will be in almost 2 weeks. Let's see, Brandon, do you remember our topic for next week?
Let's see, next week. Good question. Let me see if I can find that quick.
Anyway, so there's a lot of things. Other updates, PTC user is scheduled for June, so make sure you, if you haven't planned, that you can come for that. And once again, if you want more information, or if you need a shop coach, or if you want to be a shop coach, let us know, and we're happy to have you. Paul tells us the next Monster Garage is the other half of the Dita OTK. Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yes, that's right.
And that one was our biggest session thus far, but for those who want to see how you can change your user interface to do pretty much whatever you want inside Arbortext or out, that's really the crux of the presentation next week. All right, great. Thanks everybody for coming, and we will, if there's no more questions, we will see you very soon at the next one. Thanks everyone.